Hi, everybody, and Happy New Year. Welcome back inside the locker room, though the theme has changed now because, of course, it's not football season. See, the Ravens lost this weekend. We're hip to that stuff. But now we've turned our attention to basketball as we expand our TV product for you from not just football, but coming through the winter, we're going to be talking a lot of basketball, both boys and girls on the high school scene. Also talking about our youth basketball for this season that is in play right now. And coming up in the spring, hoping to expand the package to baseball and lacrosse as well, as we know those are two humongous sports and probably, arguably, Anne Arundel County's best sports in terms of state competition. Pete Medhurst back again alongside. We brought out the heavy hitters in this show. Got Chief of Athletics John Spinnenweber. Soon we'll be hearing from the Director of Parks and Recreation, Rick Anthony, who got out to the Southern South River boys game this week. John went out to the Meade Chesapeake girls game. But certainly, John, with youth basketball, never, you look at the numbers now, busting at the seams on a Saturday here in Anne Arundel County. There's virtually almost not a gym that's being utilized for basketball to service the constituents of Anne Arundel County.
Yeah, Pete, you're exactly right. What we try to do is try to find the best gyms, put our 417 teams that we have playing for Rec and Parks, put them in the best gyms, and then we go from there. So we get feedback from the communities on what the quality gyms are, but a lot of the new schools, Rec and Parks has been involved with some of the construction, putting middle-sized school courts in elementary school gyms. So it's been advantageous for the kids, and it's good for basketball.
I was going to say places like Davidsonville, Tracy's Elementary that have come online, new elementary schools, another one eventually going to be coming online at Lothian. How much does having that gym space help, with an expanding program? Because, I mean, let's face it, for years there were several elementary schools that pretty much had to go to user groups so they could do clinic play because it wasn't quite ready for the county youth play.
Well, what we try to do is make accommodations for everybody, all levels of play. And as the new schools come in, some of them are more conducive to higher levels of play. So, some of your smaller elementary school gyms aren't great for our A-League. So you mentioned Tracy's. It's a diamond in the rough. It's a little far away, but we try to, from people up here north where we are, but down south it's a great place to play. The school is a nice size and it's set up. So we try to keep people within geographical areas when we can. And as you know, it's probably based on levels of play. You might have to travel to find the level of play, but we use that magnet gym concept.
You all now also expanding the package, so to speak. This is the first year that we've really allowed the A-Leagues to be more of an open format. Teams essentially have an open door. They'd like to come play in that upper competition because the game has expanded so much on the amateur level that if you don't open up to these teams, sometimes you lose some of these local teams. They go play elsewhere.
Well, we have an expansion in our boys league this year and girls, but what we try to do, as you're referring to, is open up for levels of play in our A league, where we allow AU type teams come in there. And if, quite frankly, we're really fortunate we have people on our basketball board. Maria Gray's head of Chesapeake High School, as you know. Reggie Lewis, although he's not on the basketball board, is on our football board. High school coaches, we went out and got feedback and they're saying, look, we need the people, if they want to play at the high school level, you've got to open up so they can play against other people. Otherwise, they're just going to go and play for the, up in Baltimore and Lansdowne, where the rec leagues are. So first year we've tried it and it's working pretty well.
Speaking of Maria, she, of course, one of the greats in Anne Arundel County history, back in the day, playing with the likes of Patty Dages and that great run of a program that Art St. Martin had. Having someone like Maria now expand her coaching horizon, she's been obviously involved with the Lakeshore program for years, but now to take over that job at Chesapeake High School has the kids off to a terrific start. And I'm sure it's going to regenerate some enthusiasm for that program. And we, of course, know that will trickle down through the youth level as well.
Yeah, it's you have it in football with, Reggie coaching at Meade and Rob Elliott, a high school coach in rec leagues, and then it's moved over to like Maria Gray and Reggie at Meade High School. It was a neat game to go watch that night, but just the impact that Maria's had, it's amazing how our big people are doing big people moves now and stuff. So, she was training them up and they're doing up and unders and doing some good things, but having people like that coach at the rec level and also have involvement at the high school makes our job easier. When we came up with this A-League idea, we went out and sought them and said, hey, what do you think about this? And so far, it's worked pretty well.
I was going to say, too, at a program like Chesapeake, obviously this is the most success they've had probably since you had the chance to coach there and had the great chance to coach your daughters on the girls' side. In girls basketball, we'd seen Arundel dominate for so many years, but it seems as if now everybody is as tightly packed as we've seen. South River certainly has a terrific club this year, but this looks as even as we've seen in quite some time, especially that middle of the pack right now in girls basketball.
I think a classic case would be, Chesapeake struggled the last couple of years, but, people are looking at why they got better this year. Well, they have a young lady there that's playing as a freshman, Brooke Roel, that obviously has played years and years of AAU basketball. And when you come in as a freshman, as a ball-handling freshman to run the team, you have an impact. That changes the thing. So obviously Maria's going to be a better coach with a player like that. It makes things a lot easier. So the impact of AAU and playing year-round, those kids are ready to play high school. And that's what we try to do, change our leagues to meet the needs of the citizens.
Yeah, I was going to say, no question about it. It makes a huge difference out there. We see it all the time on football. We see it in lacrosse. The same programs that dominate at that level usually have the most success at the county level. Now, Reggie Leach, of course, has a terrific team at Meade. They are likely the one to press South River at the top of the standings as this year goes along. Reggie, a real versatile guy. We've seen him. We watch him coach football. Now he's obviously become a staple at Meade, now coaching girls basketball. A guy like Reggie has almost become an invaluable resource to that community there that serves Meade High School.
Well, he's involved, I guess it's Meade Youth Basketball, Meade Mays, I guess it is. He's involved with the rec level, and his comes up. You see your kids, he has a relationship with them. And then with that, he's got a couple pretty good players over there at Meade that I saw the other night that, again, for Reggie, those years that he spent doing AAU and working with the kids, he's got a player like Alexis Jackson who's pretty special.
You talk about people through the years, and obviously when we talk about women's basketball, you competed against him. What Lee Rogers was able to do there for a period of time at Arundel, where they were so dominant at that spot, we may not see something like that again, because you look at the talent that he had. Several of those young ladies went on to use basketball as a way to go to college, had some that played at the Division I level, like Siobhan Hammond played in a terrific program at Louisville. That run that Lee had, do you think we'll see something like that ever again at the high school level, as good as it was?
No, I think what's happening, and Lee did a great job, the 6-hour practices on Saturdays, they've sort of tamed that down to the Board of Ed, but he had such good players. Alex McGuire played at Army, was an incredible player. Those kids came in ready to play. I think the way basketball's changing is that all these kids are playing all over the place with the AU teams, and they decide to stay in their community, like a Brooke Roel at Chesapeake, and that just, like you're saying, I think that provides a parity.
Yeah.
If they decide to stay.
How much do you think the private school situation, because, years ago when Lee was dominating, Spalding really wasn't quite yet to the level where they are now, where they are recruiting hard. Now you have several private schools all competing in the MIAA and the Girls Catholic League. They all want a piece of the pie, so they're all out there grabbing at the public schools' best student athletes. And now you look at what that Spalding program has done through the years. They've really turned out some fantastic players.
And Bookie Roseman is one of the guys that coaches the Green Hornets, so he's a rec level coach that's doing a good job up there. I think that the private schools are they're not quite what they were a couple years ago, because I think more and more kids are staying home. Mm-hmm. And we always said that at Chesapeake, when we were doing recruiting, that we could give them full scholarships. All they had to do is pay for their meal money, and we could give them transportation.
We'll send you a bus.
Yeah, we'll send you transportation. But I think basketball is just broader now. There's not the powerhouse teams here and there. Rick Smith over at Meade, Old Mill's now doing a pretty good job. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And of course, Chuck Miller had some great teams at Severn over the past couple of years as well. When we come back, we'll take a look at the boys' side. We'll talk about the legend John Brady, who seems to have his roster back together for this second half of the campaign. They look like a team that's getting ready to dominate on the boys' side. And we'll take a look at the rivalry, Southern and South Rivers, the Seahawks. If you look back at the total numbers through the years, a rare victory over those Bulldogs. We'll have Rick Anthony out in Harwood to talk to Mike WASILENKO in the South River side as they dominate Southern 54-38 on Friday night. We'll do that when we come back right here on Inside the Locker Room, Talking Hoops. Welcome back. Time to talk the boys' side, and certainly when you talk boys basketball in Anne Arundel County, you look at, of course, the first guy, the legend, John Brady, and those Annapolis Panthers. And for years, there were three guys that dominated the scene in boys basketball: John Brady, Butch Young at Meade, Tom Albright at Southern. Terrific games through the years. What made those three coaches, because you had different dynamics in place there. Annapolis, obviously, with Coach Brady, large city scene there. You had Butch Young fighting the kids who come in militarily. Sometimes they stay a while, sometimes they don't.
Yep.
And you had Tom Albright coaching the smallest school in Anne Arundel County. So three different dynamics, but three coaches who won an enormous amount of basketball games in this county.
Yep, I think when I coached the boys at Chesapeake, if you went and played Butch or John or Tom, you know that their teams are going to be prepared. A lot of people don't realize it, but they're going to be disciplined because they're running stuff, and they had systems. You know, Tom with the 1-3-1, and those guys did a great job and diversified themselves with the talent they got year to year.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, we look at the boys' side today, and obviously, you know, John, a couple of transfers, guys that were sitting out early, now back on the roster. Why do you think John Brady still does this? I mean, he's been doing this an awful long time. You know, doesn't necessarily, you know, he's not even teaching anymore, but yet he shows up at the gym every day. Him and Kenny Dunn, two guys that, you know, I think you might have to drag those two out of the gym because they still enjoy it. They still enjoy the camaraderie with the kids and trying to hopefully help those kids advance basketball as a way to get an education later on.
I think you hit the nail on the head. They like what they're doing. John, if you know John personally, he might every year, this is it, but he's back every year. Who would, in her right mind, would try to coach boys and girls at the same time?
He did.
His wife Sharon must have been a saint, all right, to allow him to do that. But that's because probably a passion for basketball and a desire to teach. And I think I told you off camera before, when you played against John Brady or when you go against him, his teams were prepared. But what was also unique about him, and I don't know if you know the time, is that he was willing to go help other coaches.
Right.
When I started out in Chesapeake and that program was not very good, he was one that I could turn to for help and suggestions, and he would always tell you what he was thinking, but he was out there to help people, and I think that's he seems like he's gruff, but he's good for basketball.
I was going to say, you talk to the kids who played for him at Annapolis. I think, you know, every coach, I think, at times has a gruff demeanor on the sidelines, but I think 99% of the people that patrol the sidelines have their kids' best interest at heart. And I think if you're a parent that sends your child to Annapolis, you know, in the end, that's still a guy you want coaching your kid because you know he's going to get the most out of him.
One of our guys that runs president of Old Mill Youth Association, Larry Brown, played for him back in the day. He talks, you know, Coach Brady I haven't told him, but out of respect for Coach Brady, he's appreciative of what's gone on there over those years.
Yeah, and of course, one of the great rivalries is, of course, Southern and South River. Back in the 80s, the great games between Kenny Dunn's teams with Boo Sesker and Elvado Smith. Boo, of course, went to Winthrop. Elvado ended up at Georgetown, going up against the Barnett brothers. Gary Mullen down at Southern was one of the greatest eras of basketball here in this county. They renewed that rivalry on Friday night, and the Seahawks took the top prize. Director of Parks and Recreation, Rick Anthony, on the scene to conduct our post-game interviews.
Hey, thanks, guys. Here we are at the rivalry game between Southern and South River. It was an exciting one here, and we have South River coming out with the victory. Very intense game. I have with me Coach Mike WASILENKO. And, Mike, can you just kind of describe the atmosphere that was in there tonight?
This is, I mean, what we tell our kids is this is what we play for. You know, a crowd like that on the road, a lot of energy, and our kids came out flying around and just had fun. This is why you play high school basketball. This is what you enjoy being a part of, and, you know, it's nice to get a win in an environment like this.
And always when Southern plays South River, you got a nice crowd and a great environment for the gym. You guys came out with a lot of energy, but Southern fought back. Can you tell me your thoughts at halftime?
Yeah, well, I mean, we knew this was going to be a war the entire time. From start to finish, the game doesn't end at halftime. We went in there and we just said, we need 16 minutes like the first 16. We got to come out, match their intensity, and then, you know, take it to another level. And, you know, the kids matched that and came out with a nice win.
And you're excited about your team that you have this year. I know last year you had some struggles even against Southern and other teams, but can you describe kind of the personality and the type of team that you have this year and kind of what you anticipate moving on in county?
The best thing about this team is it's led by great seniors. And our seniors, they really do a good job. As things start to hit a downslope, they come together and they figure out what's wrong. And they listen to each other, they build together, and they win together.
Well, thanks, Coach, and I think I'll have a couple of your seniors over here to talk to them a little bit. Congratulations, it was a great win. All right, guys, right here we got two seniors at South River, had a fantastic game, led their team to victory. I have Aaron Anthony, unless you finished up with 15 points and 14 rebounds. Jalen, you got 16 points as you led your team to victory. Aaron, can you describe the beginning of the game and what was going through your mind at the start of this game?
We came out a lot of intensity. I was thinking we got to get this W because trying to get a county championship. So I came in a lot of intensity and came out to play.
It was a good game, and we got Jalen here. So Jalen, you started off a little bit slow, but you've been leading the team in scoring this year. What did you do to get yourself back in the game later on?
My teammates always encouraged me to shoot, so they just kept my confidence up, and I just went out there and knocked them down.
Well, very good. There you go, fellas. Again, back to the studio. South River with the W over Southern. Thank you.
Our thanks to Rick Anthony, and how about that for Rick? I remember a few years ago I had the chance to broadcast a game at Southern where my oldest son was playing and scored his first high school point in that game. How about Rick? His son he comes out to do the interviews, and he goes for 15 points and 14 rebounds. And I know for Rick and his son Aaron, that had to be quite a night for them. And obviously for the South River program, let's give them props. I mean, Mike WASILENKO, former guy that played at Catholic University, now sitting at 8-3. That's a pretty impressive start for South River.
So I saw South River play one night up at Chesapeake. They're quick. They got some guys who play. Rick's son plays the top of the 1-3-1, and he's got some quick ups, long arms, and he's very quick. So it's challenging. The coach does a nice job with the talent that he has utilizing that.
As we wrap up our inaugural edition, going forward, basketball with the constituents. You mentioned earlier people like Maria, a guy like Rudy Brown has been an invaluable resource through the years in Anne Arundel County. As we look forward, can this program get even bigger than it is right now with youth basketball in Anne Arundel County?
Well, it is getting bigger, as you're aware, Pete. A couple of years ago, we started, our spring basketball program took off, and we felt the need, and we had to do something because they're playing anyhow. So, spring basketball, Jeff probably has 90-some teams just playing in the spring, and we try to work with the group so that they can, practice and get some gym time. But, they're playing year-round. Basketball is year-round now, so we're trying to, assist in that.
I was going to say, I mean, it's people talked about, the specialization of sports. It really is here.
Mm-hmm.
It really is for those kids who are going to do it all year round. Of course, for more information about Anne Arundel County Parks and Recreation Youth Sports, you can go to aacounty.org, click on the Parks and Recreation page. All the information you need to know is right there for any sport during any season for both adults and for youth. Our thanks to Director of Parks Rick Anthony for going out to conduct our post-game interviews this week. For John Spinnenweber, I'm Pete Medhurst. Thanks for joining us for our inaugural edition of Inside the Locker Room, Talkin' Hoops. We'll see you next week.